Welcome to Unofficial Canon, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Taven.
I'm Brendan.
And today we are going to continue our conversation from last episode about The Last Jedi. We were talking about what we liked about the film, and now we are going to join the internet on the dark side of the Force and talk about what we did not like.
Yes.
So I'm going to start at the beginning of the film.
That's a good place to start.
We touched on it last episode, so we won't have to talk about this specific too long, but the humor in the film does, in my mind, go too far at times. I'm not on the camp that's like no humor in my Star Wars movie ever, but it like Poe making him a yo mama joke is too much.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
And you could have easily edited it out because it was just audio. It was just audio, guys. Come on. Just decide, you know what, that's a bit too far. Let's just take that out right there.
But I think there's a perception with these movies that as longtime Star Wars fans, we're a bit at odds with the people who are making these. Because this is in a post-Marvel universe where those movies are very, very successful. And Disney wants to strike that goal twice. And so these movies are made in a 21st century mindset for a 21st century audience, something that Star Wars wasn't. And I don't necessarily think they need to go as far as they're going, but they're pushing it that direction to pull in the people who are like, I know the Star Wars.
Yeah, they want that Guardians of the Galaxy audience, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is like, and the thing I think Marvel does really well is like Guardians of the Galaxy has that tone, but something like Black Panther that's coming out in a month or something like that won't have that tone at all. Like it's going to be a more serious film. It'll have little comedic moments, but not like, I don't know. Anyway, it's humor goes a little too far at points, but like it's not like the two that I can think of off the top of my head, and we mentioned them both last episode, was the Poe Yo Mama joke and then the Porg and the Falcon on Crate. Goes just a little too far. I'm sure once the Blu-ray comes out, I'll come up with some more, but that's it for now.
Absolutely. When we can watch these back to back and be like, timestamp 4611.
I can see an assistant's hand in the background, and that breaks the illusion for me.
Kathleen Kennedy should be fired. Who's working continuity on these films?
Come on.
Exactly.
Anyway, that was a joke. That is satire for comedy purposes. One of the things that I really didn't like about this movie, and this is probably if you're talking about a particular character, I really don't like Hux at all in this movie. And I think it's just because I'm confused, because in Force Awakens, I got the sense that he was kind of like that spineless SS officer type, who does terrible things because he has the power to do it and he's backed up with it, but he didn't feel incompetent to me in Force Awakens.
No, he didn't.
Like he delivers that speech, that like
that Hitler speech,
the Hitler speech, which is like spooky as shit.
Yeah,
and then they blow up a bunch of planets, and you're like, oh my god, these guys are like a super threat, right? Like they're more than the Empire. Like
I thought Sheev and Annie were bad, but no, Hux is bad.
And then in this movie, he's just straight up incompetent.
Yep.
And if you're like, oh well, he just makes some bad decisions. No, the movie literally tells us that he's incompetent, because they end up at the Rebel base, wherever that is, and he's like, they're talking about, okay, blow up the base. Okay, now aim at the ship. And Poe's doing his turret thing. And he finally tells the commander of the Dreadnought, like, oh, launch TIEs. And the commander under his breath is like, we should have launched TIEs 5 minutes ago. Right.
And just as a side note, I really, really like the character of the captain of the Dreadnought. The old haggard and like the Imperial looking dude who looks like he was part of the Empire way back in the day.
Yeah.
I want to see more of those characters for the First Order.
Yeah. It was 100%. Like, and like his ship blows up and he just stands there and he's like, all right.
Yeah. You got me.
Like the captain goes down with the ship kind of thing. Yeah, I did like that. But like, yeah, Hux is, he's just straight up, the level of incompetence is too much for me. Like, and it belittles the First Order. And I think it's like the whole movie, you feel like literally the Resistance gets their like, there's like 25 people left maybe at the end.
Well, they can all fit in the Falcon.
Yeah, they can all fit in the Falcon. And you just feel like there was never a threat. Because you've got Hux and by the end just Kylo Ren running the entire First Order, and they're just like terrible at their jobs. Like,
yes.
fire these people.
How are these people a threat to the galaxy?
Yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, no, I think it just from 7 to 8, Hux is so different, and just it brings down the threat.
And I think if you'll permit me a little bit of a deeper dive, I think Hux shows how nobody really knows what's going on in the Star Wars universe, because you've got, so at the end of Return of the Jedi, you got the Rebellion, who are now in a position to wipe out the Empire, or to take over, to reinstate the Republic. And then we don't know what happens. I mean, you can go and read the Aftermath books to get a little bit of a fleshing out of how the Republic won, or how the Rebels won, I guess. I don't know. I haven't read those because I hear they're not good. And then so you got this time span of like 29 years where the Republic is ruling the galaxy. And then out of nowhere, you get these Imperial people coming from the unknown regions who are stronger than the Republic. And then from what we see, the Republic is non-existent. There's this little resistance who had like 4 ships, and then they like where like how is really what I'm saying with this.
Yeah, well, and yeah, the Aftermath books are like the first maybe year or 2 after. Like, it's not a long time that those books cover. I think. And they're not like the syntax of the writing is not great in those books. I've read them all, and they're like, the story's interesting and they get you some, but they don't really reveal anything about anything. They basically just reveal that the First Order, a segment of the Empire, went to the unknown regions for whatever reason.
Right.
And that's where they've been camping out. And now that I know how the story group works, I know that nobody knows what they were doing out there.
And that's what's most surprising to me.
Is that they just yeah, they're just like, okay, we'll just have them go to the unknown regions, get super strong, and then come back, right? So that there can be, and somebody eventually will make, maybe that's Ryan Johnson's trilogy that we're gonna see. It's gonna be, but who knows? So there's a few things that I do know about Hux in the expanded universe. One is that Hux was a young kid during the Battle of Jakku, and that's from the Aftermath books. And his dad was like one of the leaders of the First Order Empire at that time that went into the unknown regions. And then at some point, Hux actually kills his dad to booster his position in the First Order. And this is another where it's like, because the story group is just kind of leaving these little threads and just being like yay, nay on decisions that filmmakers are making. It doesn't, I can't believe that episode 8 Hux killed his dad just to get a better position.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
That's something that I feel like Tarkin would do.
Oh, in his sleep.
Yeah, right? But not Hux. So yes, anyway, so Hux broken for me.
Yeah.
Just he's basically Jar Jar Binks because he's not useful anymore and there's no threat there. And then at the end, with the movie ending with Kylo and him in control, it's like, oh my god! And you're just hoping that 9 there's some power vacuum struggle that goes on and something changes.
Well, because it's clear that the two of them don't like each other.
No.
And the only reason they're working together is because Snoke is like, you got to work together.
Yeah.
So now that Kylo's taking out Snoke, why doesn't he just take out Hux?
Well, that might happen. We don't know.
That's what I'd like to see.
I need there to be a threat in the next movie, really. Anyway, moving on from Hux. In the last episode, I said that I'm kind of on the fence, where I'm I can't really decide if I don't like or like this movie. And that's because half the movie I like, I really, really like. And we talked about the Luke, Kylo, Rey storyline. I like all of that. There's barely anything in there that I'm like, okay, this is stupid. But the slow space chase, Battlestar Galactica, we're running out of fuel is bad for several different reasons. And the first one I will say is it comes back to the Hux incompetence thing, where it's like you have the resistance constantly. You have characters trying to find a way out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Poe, Finn, and Rose doing their thing. You have Holdo apparently doing something that you don't find out until the end, and we can talk about that in a minute. And like everyone is trying to find a way out of this situation. And then you have the First Order, which just keeps following them.
Yeah, that's their solution.
And I've had people say, oh, well, there's the line where Snoke is like, keep them on a thread or a leash or something. And it's like, but that's before they come out of light speed back at, like, that's before they catch back up with them.
Yeah, I always thought that was in reference to the hyperspace tracking.
Yeah, the hyperspace tracking.
It's like, we've got them on a leash. Wherever they go, we'll find them.
Yeah, you find them and then you destroy them. Like, you don't just sit on your heels and like wait for them to run out of fuel. And it's like the movie itself, it does the unspeakable sin of telling us exactly how much time they have left of fuel.
I hate it.
Which gives us
time limits.
Yeah, it gives us an exact length of time. In fact, we're going to jump from one Star franchise to another. Star Trek Voyager does this.
Yes.
If you're familiar. The first episode, they're like, we have this many torpedoes and this much energy and all this stuff. And I have a fan who's a huge Star Trek fan, and he rewatched the whole series and kept track of everything. And he found that like they were out of shuttlecraft by like negative numbers and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so it's like it's and the example that I would use is Battlestar Galactica, I believe. I've watched the first couple episodes, and in the first episode they're like, there's some throwaway line like, oh, how much weapons do we have or something, and someone says more than enough.
Yeah. So that'll cover us for all of the CG fights,
right?
But we need water.
So like if you and from a story standpoint, if you had said like, oh, we're running out of fuel, and you just didn't really give an exact amount, the audience is never aware of when we're going to run out of fuel. Mm-hmm. It could happen at any moment. But let's just jump back to my original point. The point is that the First Order does nothing. They just start following them, and it's bad writing, because you got to think, if you have two opposing forces, the one that you're maybe not, there's things happening in the background that we can't perceive as an audience, and they should be trying something.
Yeah.
Like anything. And that's like a lot of like, and there's so many different things that have been established in canon they could have done. Micro jumps, which are established in the Clone Wars show, so they are technically Disney canon. They have 18 hours, so they could have like called an entire another. I'm guessing this isn't the whole First Order's fleet.
Well, yeah, because if this is a galactic threat, how could the First Order ship comprise of Snoke's flying space station? Because that's bigger than a ship, and then a couple of whatever their Star Destroyers are, and then a dreadnought. You
have to assume that there's more ships somewhere else doing things. And why you wouldn't call more of them to just jump like
in
a million miles ahead of you, or even half a light year in front of you or something, right? And then just start coming in the opposite direction.
Exactly.
Like there's no reason for the First Order not to try something.
All it would take is incompetent Hux to get on the comm system and be like, we need 2 more Star Destroyers. Divert them from the invasion of Coruscant, because we need these ships now. So just have them, boop, boop, drop it.
This is literally the only pocket of resistance that exists in the universe. I think we can destroy them.
Apparently the New Republic didn't build a military. This is it.
Yeah.
Just come in.
Well, they did, but it got all blowed up.
Apparently. Oh, that's right.
Because you kept your entire fleet
in
5 systems. Just 5 systems. Which, anyway, we won't talk about that. So yeah, like, and just, we could go through this whole thing and nitpick all the little stuff that's wrong with this.
Yeah.
And we're going to. But before I do that, the biggest thing is, the movie is not engaging at this point. Like, no matter what, things cannot make sense as long as they're exciting and you're like interested in the movie.
Exactly.
But we're not. And that's like, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, okay, just get back to Luke. Get back to Luke and Rey. I'm interested in what's going to happen next. I'm interested. Like he said, I'll give you 3 lessons. I'm like, I just want to see the lessons.
Yeah.
I don't care about this whole flight thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we don't care about the flight thing. That doesn't even. I was excited after they go to Cantobite. I was excited when they went back to the flight thing because I'm like, well, at least we're not on this casino planet.
Yes, the Cantobite. So, yeah, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's wrong with Cantobite, but it is. It's that it's not engaging. I'm not
At all
interested in this, and like, there's things that are established at Cantobite and shortly after that don't really make sense in the Star Wars universe. Like they do. There's this kind of Ryan Johnson quickly introduces this concept that. And this is where this reality leaking into Star Wars, where there's weapon manufacturers that sell to both sides.
Right.
Which is like the reality. Like Star Wars is based off kind of the World War II propaganda idea. And then this is like the real world World War II idea seeping into Star Wars. Because there were like IBM was selling computers to both sides and things like that. And it doesn't feel like Star Wars, and like when you go into the larger canon, it doesn't make much sense because it's like you see these companies, these are companies selling TIE fighters and X-Wings to both sides, but it's like in the novels, it's very clearly established that like when the Empire was running things, they just controlled all forms of manufacturing everywhere.
Yeah, they had a nationalized like economy.
Like literally in the Thrawn book. The new Thrawn book, they talk about how on Lothal, they just took over mining operations.
Yes.
And like just manufactured their own stuff. And then in Rebels, they talk about Thrawn building prototypes. And it's like, why would this change? I mean, I could understand like from a Republic side where you go kind of to a democracy, why you'd have private organizations building ships.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it. Why the First Order would do that? Like,
that doesn't make sense.
Did they contract out Starkiller Base? Did they like call up the local contractor like, "Hey, we need to build this here giant planet killer. How long do you think that's going to take?"
Hey, Center Fleet Systems. We know you make the ties, but we got a bigger idea here.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't really make sense. I get it. It's kind of like we're trying to do something about the current political something or else. I mean, if you watch the prequels, they do that a lot too. Like it's really about George Bush and like, oh, it's so funny to look back on the George Bush years and be like, wait, were we scared about a dictatorship back then?
That's getting way off topic.
Way off topic.
For a couple of Canadians.
We're Canadians. Yes. Well, yeah. Anyway, we'll come back to that conversation when we get to the prequels. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this is another thing that's like shoehorned in and doesn't really make sense with the expanded canon.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I mean, I don't even know where to begin because like the whole idea of Cantobite on paper should work in Star Wars. It's a casino planet full of rich people. How could that not work? But the way the people are rich is wrong. The look of the planet feels kind of like fancy prequel Star Wars.
Yeah.
So it looks okay. And then there's, tons of fancy dressed aliens and whatever. But I don't know. But then there's like the cat horse racing. Where does that come from?
Because they race living creatures for their entertainment,
right?
Which is bad.
Well, don't even to jump ahead a little bit into Cantobite. After Rose and Finn have gone on their tear and had like the horse cats ruining speeders and killing tons of people. They look back on the destruction and Finn's like, yeah, that was worth it. Like, yeah, we did something. And then Rose reaches up, pulls the saddle off one of the cat horses and is like, go. And then she's like, now it's worth it.
Well,
okay, hold on.
All right.
One, that cat horse is getting captured by a space-age civilization that has speeders that can pick these creatures up like that. Okay, so it's not really worth it.
For all we know, they have microchips in their bodies that if they run away,
If they blow
they
up,
blow up.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've got a point when we get to Phantom Menace about this. Two, what about all the human slaves or even humanoid slaves back at the pen that they saw like kids getting whipped and shit, and they're like, we can't do anything about that, but we freed a horse, so good for us, we're doing well. And oh.
Well, okay, so I think this is a poor attempt at foreshadowing in the movie because Finn is like, oh, we made him hurt. And then Rose is like, no, now it's worth it to freeze them because she saved the thing she loved.
Oh.
So like Finn is kind of just like, we'll just screw them up, right? Whoa.
Yeah, we'll cause their insurance premiums to go up.
And then Rose is like, well, it's because the logic breaks when you're like, they're just gonna get captured. They're on a planet. Like they don't have a spaceship to escape on. Like,
where are these cat horses going?
Where are they going? Nowhere at all. Yeah, no, the Cantobite to me is broken for a couple of reasons. One is just the fact that they like leave the ship, thus establishing that people could leave the ship.
Right, and jump to hyperspace and go anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like they blow up the like all the X-wings and stuff in the ship, being like, oh no, we got no way off this, we can't go anywhere. And then somehow Rose and Finn get access to a shuttlecraft with hyperdrive. And it's like, okay.
That was in the secondary hangar bay that only has shuttlecraft.
Oh, okay. Well, let's say the ship has, I think it's safe to say if they have one, they might have two, right?
Oh yeah.
Because like, why would you just we have this small shuttle bay with just one ship in it? Let's safely assume that there are two of those. Now, I know this might take a few trips, but why don't we start hyperdrive people to like, even to Crate? Like, it's not that far. Like, it's probably like a 30-second hyperdrive.
Yeah.
Like, trip away, just like start dropping people off and like, it's going to take like, 40 or 50 trips, but man, you got 18 hours.
Yeah. And we see that the First Order doesn't care.
No, they for some reason they're not tracking smaller ships, which doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, the fact that we can leave the thing that is dooming us, I think breaks it. And then Cantobite, here's another thing I don't like. Let's shoehorn Maz Kanata in the movie. Oh God. Because she was in the last movie, and we need to make a toy of her for this movie. So let's
on her Skype call.
On her Skype call. And they call Maz Kanata, who's like, they're like, hey, can you help us? And she's like, I could, but I can't right now. And it's like, Maz, this is the fate of the universe on the line here.
Right.
I understand you're dealing with like a union trade dispute or something, but like, can you not take the time to come help us?
Like, jetpack out of here, because you got your little jetpack.
Yeah.
And come help.
Yeah.
Bring a ship that has hyperspace drives and fuel.
Yeah. Problem solved. But no, she's like, okay, so there's one other guy.
One man
who can do this job. And he wears a red flower lapel all the time.
Yep.
All the time. Showers with it, goes to the beach with it, everything with it. You'll find him on this planet. Okay. All right, Maz Kanata. You've told us there's this one guy, the one guy in the universe that can do this. Okay, so they go and they find the one guy and then proceed to get arrested before they can talk to the one guy who can do this.
Yes.
And then, whilst in jail, they find another guy. Ladies and gentlemen,
it's magic.
This is what we call bad writing. And I like, out of everything in the whole movie, like, I won't call anything else in the movie bad writing because it may not make sense, but as a contained story, it's okay. A lot of the stuff in Last Jedi that's bad is broken because of the expanded universe they've created. Yes. But this is just straight up, this is bad. This is bad writing. This is where you can't have a character say, there's one guy who can do this, and then just expect us as an audience to believe that they found another guy who could do this. Especially when the character who told you there's only one guy, you've set up to be this like not like slightly force sensitive Yoda type that's been around forever and like knows everyone in the galaxy who goes to her bar. Like you can't do that. I'm sorry. Right?
I just hope in between 8 and 9, Finn and Rose phone up Maz and they're just like, by the way, there were 2 people.
Yeah, I guess that's what they'll do. That'll be the first scene of episode 9. Maz, you were wrong. There's this another guy. His name's DJ, which, by the way, is short for don't join.
What?
Yeah, did you not know this?
No.
Okay, so DJ is short for don't join. And he has like a hat that's got a metal plate on it. Like if you've ever seen the terrible like Naruto anime, they have those like headbands. They got metal on. They got symbol on. Well, his got some Aerobesh. Is that the?
Yeah, Aerobesh.
It's got some Aerobesh on it, and it translates to "don't join," which is his advice to Finn in the movie.
Yeah,
don't join. Don't pick a side.
Oh, I hate that even more.
Yeah, isn't that terrible?
I thought they were calling him DJ because they were keeping his name secret.
No. Well, I think his name isn't actually Don't Join.
Well, no, I know, but I
that's
mean,
that's why his nickname is DJ, is because he doesn't join. Which
I'm going to counter your previous point about the lazy writing and say that is the prime example of lazy writing.
The thing is, and I only know this because I watched the official Star Wars Easter egg video or whatever, and they talk about this, and it started out as just kind of like a code name for the character when they were writing and developing it,
right? And
then it just stuck. And they put that Aerobesh in the movie, and it's like as a placeholder, don't join is perfectly fine because that's basically what that character's point is.
Right.
But to actually put that in any context in the universe,
to make that characterization his name
is silly.
It absolutely.
Anyway, so they find DJ. Well, actually, just going back. I can see the reason that they did Cantobite, because the more logical thing would be like there's this seedy bar on this planet where splicers hang out, and you could go hire a splicer who could do this. The problem is that it's too similar to
Mos Eisley
and the Cantina and Han Solo, right? So it's like, oh, let's do something different, which again is another big theme of this movie. That's the problem where they just keep like, I'm fine with doing something different, but not everything needs to be different. Anyway, so DJ splices them in, and they get on the ship, and they get caught, and then he turns. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is just a strange character that we picked up. Like, we don't know him. He doesn't know our character, so why wouldn't he sell them out? That's totally
right. Exactly.
fine.
Exactly.
It's totally fine. Like, I have no problem with that. I just feel like it could have been, like, how we got there could have been better executed. You didn't need to be on Cantobite at all to do it.
No.
And the whole reason we're on Cantobite is to show this, like, they deal to both sides concept, which, again, we've talked about, doesn't make any sense in the Star Wars universe.
No.
Because the Star Wars universe is about heroes and villains.
It's very black and white.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at everything they've been doing leading up to Last Jedi, they've been kind of trying to break that down a little bit. Like in Rebels, they talk about there's the Bendu who lives in the middle, and like Ahsoka is in the middle, and they have all this stuff. Because I think they're trying to change the very nature of the Force in Star Wars. And the more that I see, I think the whole Anakin being the chosen one who bring balance to the Force. I think that in a few things they've changed that prophecy to read more like change the Force.
So
I'm
okay with that though.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes. But either way, like it's a new dawn for Star Wars, and we'll see where it goes. But we're not on the best footing, not the worst footing.
No, it could be a lot worse.
Not the best. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Holdo. So, watching that Star Wars Easter egg official video thing that they came out with, Holdo is a character that was first appeared in a book.
Yeah. I
haven't read the Leia book yet. It's actually sitting on my desk, and I've got about 2 other books to work through before I get there. It's written by Claudia Gray, is that her full name, or is it Grayson?
No, it's Claudia Gray.
Claudia Gray, which, if you're familiar, she wrote Lost Stars, one of the best Star Wars novels.
And Bloodline, which is also...
Did she do Bloodline?
She did Bloodline.
Okay, well, then she's written 2 of the best Disney canon Star Wars books.
Agreed.
Out there currently. So I'm sure the book is really good, and I'm sure Holdo is an interesting character in the book. The problem is that, like, and this is where, like, I love the expanded stuff. I love the comic books. I love reading the books. I love getting more detail about it. But you have to treat the movies independently almost, because they have to make sense and be engaging on their own. And it's, we're big fans of the Red Letter Media Review, and in the first one they say, they don't, the taxation subplot that's going on in Phantom Menace, they're like, I don't care if it's explained in the books, and they shouldn't, because these are movies, and a large majority of everyone just watches the movies. Yes.
Although that kind of runs counter to what we said about Snoke.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the people who don't, it's easier for us to get little things because we read all the books. And I think this is where the Marvel universe and the Star Wars universe start to divert, because they're not really trying to do the same thing at all. Because the MCU is purely a movie cinematic universe.
Yes.
So all they have to talk about is stuff in the movies.
Right.
Right? So all you have to do is watch the movies. All my dad needs to do to understand Avengers Infinity War is watch the movies. Like, there's no book that's got canon in it that will increase his understanding or enjoyment of the experience. Where Star Wars is trying to do something way more, like, I don't even know the word, like, big scope. Like,
well, so what I think happens is Star Wars had that before Disney bought into it, and Disney doesn't know how to handle that.
Well, the old EU is so different the way it was handled, because it was basically George did whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And then people worked around that. And if George did something that was counter to something in the books, then that book was no longer canon, basically. Exactly. So that's why I'm saying they're trying to do something way harder, where it's like they're trying to meld all these different mediums into one. And the problem is you still need to treat the movies on their own. You can't introduce Holdo and not explain anything about her, not show her do things as a character and be like, oh, but she's an awesome character because she's in that book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just the visual choice of having a vice admiral walk around in an evening gown.
Strange.
It doesn't, as a viewer who's never seen or heard of Holdo before, you look at her and you'd be like, was she at a party before?
She's got pink hair. Like, she looks like the hippie girl who's grown up.
Yeah. Who was at a dinner party.
Yeah.
And then the fleet was like, we gots to go. And then she never bothered to just be like, maybe I should put my uniform back on?
Who can know?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm going to read that book, and hopefully I'll read it before the Blu-ray comes out. So when we actually talk about our long form thing, to just get to the point right now is that Holdo is not a character.
Mm-mm.
She is a person in the movie.
Yeah.
That tells people nothing for no reason. And this is again where it's like slightly poor writing, where it's like, if your story can be resolved, if all your characters just got together and talked for 5 minutes, it's not a good movie, right? So yeah, that's, at least I'll say half of Last Jedi, because half of the plot could have been resolved within 5 minutes.
Yes. But that's the half we didn't like.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there is much more. There is still, I think, about 4 or 5 points that we could go into, but we are kind of at our time, and I'm sure we're going to bring this stuff up when the Blu-ray, because when the Blu-ray comes out, we are going to do...
We'll have notes and shit.
Yeah, we'll do an in-depth, scene-by-scene breakdown of it. And who knows, maybe that will help us enjoy parts of the film more, and probably not so much other ones.
I think I'll like Octu more, and the fish nuns.
The fish nuns were great.
They were
funny. That was a good amount of humor in the...
Yeah, that's how Star Wars does humor.
Yeah.
And that's how Star Wars has always done humor.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you for listening, and we look forward to next week.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting. We are going to jump into Phantom Menace.
Oh, please come back.